Hello there, hockey fans, and welcome. It is a new edition of Into the Wilderness, the very first show of the 2023 off season. In fact, it's the first show since before the 2023 playoffs began. And what a playoff run it was for this squad. Ended up winning the Midwest Division title, very first division title since 2015, and also moved on to the Fogarty 4 at Fogarty Arena in Blaine, where they ended up falling in the semifinals to the Oklahoma Warriors. But it was a tremendous season. Head coach Brett Skinner, big news for him. He moves on to the Fargo Force, becomes their head coach. We get a brand new head coach. His name is Colten St. Clair. The 2023 NAHL Draft has just completed. We're going to recap that on this show and get to know the new head coach. Colten, thanks for joining me on today's show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marty. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you along, and we are first of all just get to know you a little bit here. We I know it's been just a little bit over a week since you've been introduced as the new coach, and here's some information on yourself and Gilbert, Arizona native, and also North Dakota. Got your playing experience there, and went on Lincoln, or I'm sorry, with Omaha, and also then with Sioux City. So, but first of all, first question that I had for you was, how does a guy from Gilbert, Arizona, end up getting involved in hockey?
Yeah, I get that question quite a bit, actually. I was right around 7.5 years old. It was my sister's birthday, and the whole family was going right across the street to an Italian restaurant from one of the rinks in Chandler, Arizona, actually. And I had a lot of time to kill, so my dad and I walked across the street, and I saw some kids playing, and I just said that's something I want to try.
And considering the weather in Arizona, I can't blame kids for wanting to get into a hockey rink.
Yeah, I mean it's nice during the winter months, you know, but it is nice to get into a rink. I'll say the hockey community is really growing there. So I was just glad to be a part of it. And there's a lot of good players coming out of that area now.
Right. Did you get a chance to? I know you're a little bit older than Austin Matthews, but maybe did you any chance to see him when you were growing up?
I did not actually. I have some friends that have, or some buddies that know him, but I have not actually got the honor to meet him yet.
All right. What is the temperature in Gilbert nowadays? Are we talking triple digits now?
Yeah, it's triple digits. I wouldn't be surprised. It's at least 100 probably right now.
Yeah.
Probably pretty soon get into that 110, maybe 115 mark.
Right. That's crazy. Well, I'm supposed I understand you're in International Falls today, so it's got to be
Yep.
a lot more of a relief up there.
Yeah, it's a lot nicer. Basically working on the computer all day, staring at a lake. So I'll take that
Right.
any day.
Awesome. All right. So, wanted to just we're going to jump into the draft and what
Yep.
we saw from that before we get into some of your background. I know we'll get a little bit more into some of your coaching philosophy and influences there, but I did want to talk a little bit about uh, the guys that were selected in the draft, and we got you know you got Loris Uberty. You go with the goaltender on the first pick. You go make a trade for uh, Pete Permalis,
Yep.
young man who I understand played with Sioux City for a little while, and
Yep.
really a good mix of forwards and defense in that draft as well. Overall thoughts on what you guys brought in?
Yeah, it was a good draft. We looked at some pieces that whether guys are returning, might be returning, just some pieces that would fit. You look at Uberti, who's a tremendous goaltender from Switzerland. I don't know if anybody really knew he was coming over. I think the word got out a little bit, the week leading up to the draft. So we're lucky enough to have him. Great young man, fun to talk to on the phone, and just super excited to be part of the Wilderness. You look at Permalis, that's somebody that I've had past coaching experiences with. Just a great young man. He's a large body, 6'3", but just tremendous human being, and that's something that we're really looking forward to. He's got some good international experience. Won a Clark Cup with us in Sioux City. He's good friends with Gustav Zozelinch. It's so that goes a long way as well. You look at Logan Morrell. He's actually a kid from Arizona. I actually remember when I was a junior in college back in town. I was back visiting my hometown in Arizona, and we had the same power skating coach actually, and I skated with him when he was, I think he was like a Pee Wee or a Bantam at the time. Then obviously, you get into got a good young defenseman in Brant Doobie. He's property of the Tri-City Storm in the USHL. A lot of upside there. Good sized kid for his age. A little bit more dynamic with the puck. That'll be something to work on with him, is just being able to have that dynamic ability offensively as well as defensively. You got John Sebastian Pock. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Kind of a little bit of a late bloomer. Little, I hate using the term raw, but that's a little bit what he is. Just really good upside there with him. Nolan Benton's out of Winnipeg. I actually coached his brother for a year down in Omaha, and his brother actually is a Duluth Bulldog. So both the family, the parents will probably be pretty happy with that one, having both boys close to each other there. Evan Williams, just a pure goal scorer. Minnesota high school hockey player. You got Jack Roberts, just a really, really hard-nosed, good-sized kid. He's just hungry. He wants to make it. He's got to prove himself a little bit. And I think that's one of the things I love best about him. You got Mike Murtaugh, UConn commit. Somebody that I've known in the past a little bit. He was a draft pick in Sioux City. Again, he's going to be a kid from the BCHL. And, some of these kids, they obviously have other options, and that's something that we just got to keep in touch with them on and hopefully get him over. He's kind of one of those kids. Cade Kozak is actually used to be Sioux City property. Now he's Fargo Force. He's from Asante, Minnesota. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I don't want to upset any Minnesota natives out there.
I think you're pretty close.
All right, close enough. Okay, he's a young D man as well. He'll get a college commitment here probably within the year. Our goal for him, obviously, same with Doobie and a lot of these guys is, get them and move them on to the USHL or right to college, whatever it is. Dominic Van Sagi, he's a kid out of St. Louis, just a big, steady defenseman, somebody that really hasn't had a chance yet to prove himself. Brody Dietz, ex-Sioux City pick, so obviously I have a relationship with a lot of these kids. Played at St. Thomas last year, Wisconsin native. His dad's a strength coach in Minnesota Gophers. So a lot of good rapport there. Alex Semp, kind of a bit of a steal, 40 plus point guy in juniors last year in the MJ, and just a smaller skilled player out of Fargo. And then Mackay Sparks played in the NA3 last year, 78 points, I believe, something along
Put up
those
a lot of
lines.
points. I saw it. Sheridan,
Yeah, 78 points. And then I believe he had a little bit of time with the Wilderness as well.
had a cup of coffee with the Wilderness. Yeah.
Yep. So, obviously you could tell by this draft a little bit, coming in to be the first time head coach, have a relationship with a lot of these players. And I think that's something important. I think, when you go into it, you obviously got to pick to the way that you want to play, the guys that are returning and the guys that are around us, but just people that add to the culture and just overall good human beings that work and that are hungry.
Right. And now I'm sure it couldn't be easy, the fact that you couldn't be part of the pre-draft camps.
Yep.
And so I'm sure there was a lot of trust in what Packy and Dave were in info they were providing you from what they saw.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a whirlwind the last, 7 or 8 days, and then especially going right into to the draft. It being such a big piece of next year's team. You got to rely on those guys. Their feet have been on the ground here. That's just with every staff member too. Guys, everybody's there for a reason, and everyone's got to put their minds together, and everyone should have a little bit of a say for sure.
Right.
And everyone works, and like I said, they're there for a reason. So you got to trust in that process, and that's what we went with.
I wanted to play a highlight for you here of we I was able to find from Permalis from when he was at Corpus Christi, and
Yeah,
so I don't know if you're able to see this here.
yeah, I could see it pretty good.
So that and they well, let's see, we'll just make it shows he's got a pretty good shot,
Yep,
and so at least uh, somebody that puts himself in good position there as well.
yep.
And so what? Yeah, just some of the things that you like from him.
Yeah, obviously, the size is always a bonus. That is one thing you can't teach. Yeah, I know it's not the end all be all, but if you can get that in a good player with what you're looking for, that's obviously, like I said, that's a big bonus. I know him personally. I think the year at Sioux City, play time was down quite a bit. He did go through some injury problems there. But I also think it's important, I talk about just having the connections here. And, with a returning defenseman of ours, Oslin's like they're really good friends.
Yeah,
And, at least we're bringing all people in that either the coaching staff is familiar with or our own players are familiar with. I just think it makes a smoother transition. And when you get somebody that really wants to come over and play for you, I think that's a very powerful thing.
sure.
And with Petey, we had to go back. He had to get a little bit of confidence, and he's got international play under his belt. So he's an experienced player there, and I think he's finally ready to take that step. And when somebody believes in him like myself, and I think that goes a long way. And I think he deserves a chance to really be a key player.
And yeah, you mentioned the size, and I'm sure the international playing experience can't hurt either.
Yep. Nope. That's a bonus. That's it's great because he's already been over here to the U.S. once. His first time was Sioux City. He hadn't been over to the USA before, and now again he's traveled playing for international to Latvia. He's played with a couple of different teams in the United States, and like I said, I think just those things and his growth and maturity will allow him to be a key player for us.
Right. Yeah, that's I'm it's always nice to see guys that
Yep.
have some experience with especially with other players that they've got that little bit of a familiarity there as he does
Yep.
with Goose. And um I was curious about one thing because there's been some news over the last few days in the junior hockey world where you've got uh, the Winnipeg Ice going to Wenatchee. BCHL is going to have one fewer team. Do you kind of wish that maybe there was a week that the draft was a little bit later? Maybe there would have been a few more resources there for you guys to go after for with the Wenatchee players?
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it's hockey. It's a constant flow of change. Maybe it was part of their plan. I don't know.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it is what it is. There's, you just still got to do your job and go after the players that have already gone down the path with. And, who's to say, you know, you can't talk to some of their guys now. I don't know. It's just
right,
it's just the way it goes. And like I said, you just got to trust the process that you have with your staff and the process of the path that you've gone down with these players. And we went down the path with these guys that we drafted for a reason. And you got to stick
right,
to that and you got to trust it.
right. Yeah, and so folks are aware. I mean, obviously those Wenatchee kids. I'm sure one of them, some of them may love to play for that WHL team, but it's a totally different pathway for hockey. Those kids are shooting
Yep.
for the OHL, which doesn't allow for the NCAA scholarships, and
Yep.
most of those kids in the BCA wants those NCAA commitments. So,
Yep.
um, Yeah, it's a crazy world sometimes, and um, but I did want to go ahead and talk about a couple of guys that you may be familiar with from your time coaching, and maybe we can talk a little bit about some of what they brought to your team and see how because maybe some of these guys that you brought in might be able to um, play up to the talent that some of these guys that you saw. Um, I'm talking about guys that played with the Wilderness and with Sioux City over this past season, and one of them, I'm going to bring up a highlight here of uh, Ren Morkway,
Yep.
and let's see here, turn that highlight off and that highlight off, and there we go. Um, so talk about a guy that was great on special teams. Here he is scoring the only non empty net shorthanded goal the Wilderness had during the regular season. Um, not that we had a bad penalty kill, it's just that wasn't just didn't
Yep.
have a lot of chances like that. But Ren, that was that showed some of his talent there. Great two-way player, great defensive player, but also put up a lot of points. And I guess I'm just curious if there may be some guys on that you may see coming in that might be a Red Morkway caliber kind of player.
Well, that's a really good question. I think, a couple of our younger defensemen that potentially are going to be coming in, I think they might not have the size that Ren has, but I think similar playing style. Um, you look at Cade Kozak, who a little bit like Rennie, plays through hands. He's not afraid. He's got a good stick. You look at Brant Doobie, kid that we drafted. He does have a little bit of the dynamic puck skills that Ren has. And as far as returning players, I think they're a little bit of their own identity. I think they're already going to be older and they're established, and but I do think that Ren's overall, you know, playing all three zones as a D man and able to produce offense, able to kill pucks defensively. I think that is something I'm looking forward to teaching the younger guys that we have. And you got a good transitional D with Goose that we have, and we got guys that essentially started this culture for the D core with Janzig and Quinny back there, and best of luck to those guys as they pursue their path with making those USHL teams.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm just excited to have a couple of younger guys that play similarly to Ren. I think by the time they get to around 19 or 20, what Ren is, I think they have the same potential.
Right. And I'm not going to put you on the spot on the possibility of Ren Morkway coming back. We always
Yeah,
those Wilderness fans would love to have him
yeah.
back on the team, and and we forgave you guys a little bit for
Getting Shoal,
when you
you got
did take
Shoal.
him. We got
Yep.
Shoal, and I've got a highlight of Shoal coming up here too.
Yep.
And I just wanted to talk a little bit about
Yeah.
what he brought to the squad here, and so this was in the Robbie Cup semifinals, and you talk about what he could do two-way as well. Here he was able to move the puck along the wall, trying to get it out of the zone, and got himself in a great position here offensively in the zone, and he showed off his shooting skills there as well. And I understand, you know, I guess the same question would be there. Do we have a Sawyer Shoal coming in?
It's a great question. Um, I was at that game, so I saw that goal by Schroll and just want to state how Ren and Sawyer just unbelievable human beings. I think Scholes, he was one of the first people I reached out to when this opportunity presented itself for me to be the next head coach, and I just had some questions for him, and I think he helped me out a little bit about getting me some of the guys' phone numbers and reaching out to them a little bit too. So can't thank him enough for that. Sawyer Scholl, geez, what an energy player, what a leader. Just plays with his heart on his sleeve with pure passion. I think he's a guy you never want to let go. Obviously he was with us for a little bit in Sioux City, but glad he went to a great organization. But I think there's potential for sure. There's maybe a little bit in Jack Roberts just by virtue of the size and ability to finish checks and play through hands with a little bit more physicality. Not necessarily a dynamic goal scorer, but they just play heavy and work for their goals and play north-south hockey. And I think that's a little bit of Jack Roberts there. If we get him, hopefully we do. Michael Murtaugh, I think he's got some Sawyer showing him as well. And obviously some of that'll pan out being, with some of these younger guys and guys that are draft picks on, that's part of my job, and our job as an organization, as staff, is to help create a path for these guys and an identity that will allow them success. And I think that's, something I'm really looking forward to the most.
Right. Yeah, I get both those guys, great young kids, and whether Ren stays at Sioux City or not, I'm sure he'll do great there. And we wish Sawyer the best of luck at Wisconsin. And also on an aside here, one since we saw a highlight of Oklahoma, want to wish them congratulations for winning the Robertson Cup. We're going to lose to a team in the playoffs. May as well lose to the team that wins it all, I guess. So.
Yep.
So I wanted to talk to you about maybe just a little bit about coaching philosophy, a little bit. Is there a particular type of game that you like to coach as far as a style, or like heavy offensive tempo, or are you more looking for a defensive style, or just trying to fit it to the players that you have?
Yeah, I think our identity will always be the same, just work based, relentless, connected, and smart. And you know what I mean by work based, like just obviously the second and third efforts, nobody outworks us or our staff. Just the relentless pursuit of the puck, and that's the playing fast and in your face hockey. Being connected, that is part of more of the structure. Five guys in the picture, all three zones, being predictable, everybody on the same page, and just the smart. I guess the best way to put and describe that would be game management. Are you just that overall hockey sense for our guys and feel for the game? Are you going on the ice after a goal against? Are you the first shift? That's a big shift. And are we, our guys gripping their sticks? Does somebody need to give us a little energy boost because we're flat? And, is there a minute left in the second period and we just tied it? Is a D man going to be up leading the rush? Just the whole game management piece and using the clock as your friend. And I think the overall structure of it, though, is going to be dependent on exactly who our personnel is. I think obviously I have certain things I like, on a forecheck or, forecheck neutral zone, D zone coverage, those things. But you, I'm a firm believer that you have to know what your personnel is before you make an overall decision on that. And, obviously I have, a few different options on those. But the overall piece, and when we decide to finally kick it into gear and before the guys come in, we'll be relying on who we have personnel wise.
All right. Curious, growing up, who were some of your influences in hockey? Who are the guys that you looked up to that when you were, just some of the guys that you idolized more or less?
Geez, it's a great question. I used to love, I love Zach Parise. And ironically, we ended up going to the same college. And I loved Jerome McGinley. He was a little bit more, obviously, he was a pure goal scorer, but he was very tough as well. Not that was nowhere near those lines, but I just loved the passion that he played with, and that he was a leader and stuck up for his teammates. And Zach Parise, just an overall great human being, humble, worked for everything that he had, and those are some of the reasons why I looked up to those guys.
I know that both those guys had a good toughness to it. And
Yep.
is that what you look for as far as players then as well, guys that are able to uh, be out there on the ice and withstand a few hits?
Yeah, I do. Obviously the game has changed a little bit. I do believe there's a power behind sticking up for your teammates or just showing passion. I know it's not, the old school where you're just fighting every night, but if need be, fine. But I think a better way to put it is just compete. I think, it's not fair to ask a 5'8" guy to run around all the time and finish a ton of checks, but he can compete and be physical by playing through hands and never losing a puck race and touching every puck first and blocking a shot, those type of things. But the whole compete side of it is a toughness. It's a mental toughness as well. And that's definitely going to be one thing that's non-negotiable for our group.
All right, and then I wanted to bring up some of your coaching influences here with in your over your period of time, either playing or coaching. I know that Dave
Yep.
Hackstall, Dean Blaze, a couple of guys that played a big part of that, um, and then you got uh, Jason Herter in there as well.
Yep.
Some of the guys that you worked with in what did you learn? I guess looking at Blaze, Hackstall, these guys, what did you learn from these guys? Yeah, if any of these guys that I mentioned here, some of the facets that you've taken from them and put into your coaching philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Coach Hackstall, I mean, you just look at his presence and when he walked in a room, it was just, it was going to be important what he said and just his overall professionalism. And, he was very good tactically, systematically. I think the one thing that I really loved about Coach Hackstall was he was always willing to grow. He knew at sometimes when he was too hard on guys and had to read the group and when to step back a little bit. And I think he's humble enough to just always keep growing and keep learning. Dean Blaze for me, it was my first coach out of youth hockey, and so that was an awakening moment for me. Just the guy is pure passion. He gets his guys to play hard, and he's intense, but he loves his players, and I think that goes a long way. Um, and then just some guys that I've coached with, Dave Wilkie in Omaha gave me the opportunity to start my junior coaching career. And obviously, Luke Strand, we won a championship together. I was his captain on Team USA. We won a gold medal together. So we have a great relationship, and I can't thank, those guys enough from my first opportunity as a head coach. Those guys helped me get here. And, you just kind of observe a little bit. You get in some arguments with them and you just kind of hash things out and you just learn a ton, and they're great hockey minds, and each guy brings a little bit, something a little bit different to the table. So for me, within my identity, my personality, I've taken something a little bit from each guy.
All right, awesome. And then last but not least, you've had a few accomplishments in your career. And just curious, which of these might be your biggest? I know you've got winning an NCAA title. You won a Clark Cup. See, when you were your first coaching gig, you won Coach of the Year in the Western States League. But maybe there's something else. Maybe there's something I missed. Maybe a youth hockey thing in Arizona that was big. What would you say?
If there was are you asking me if something else should be on there and then I pick from
Or
those?
just
Want me
any one of those, or if there might be a wild card that I'm not thinking of that might be your biggest hockey accomplishment.
It's a great question. Oof. I would say winning the national championship and Clark Cup are both right there just because it was, a team award. We got rewarded at the end for it. So I'd like to take the coach of the year one out of it. But even though it was the players that, allowed me to get that, but
Sure.
I, I honestly can't, for playing wise, obviously it was the national championship
Right.
and fortunate enough to also win a gold medal, but then you got coaching when I was, fortunate enough to be part of such a great group to win a Clark Cup. Those, I think they're dead on. It's
Yeah,
same feeling at the end.
I'm
So,
sure. I'm sure. All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what you can do here in the NA, and trying to continue this momentum that the Wilderness franchise has had over the last few
yep.
years and building up. So, in the meantime, enjoy your stay up in International Falls and this
Thank you.
this summer up here in Minnesota. We'll look forward to talking to you some more a little bit later on in the off season.